Sometimes something is so interesting that I talk about it even though it's nominally not directly AI related, but you will see why it is AI related a little bit further in the video. Putin says organ transplants could grant immortality. Not quite. So thanks to MIT Tech Review for this one. Other replacement therapies are showing promise for healthy longevity. So I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but I said to my own kids, when you guys are older, people will be routinely living to about 120. Now think about that. That completely changes society. What does it mean for all of the things that society is currently built on? What about work? Instead of a 40-year career, you have an 80-year career? Instead of being married for 40 years, you're married for 80 years? This is going to be fascinating, and it's going to happen within a generation. But let's find out more about whether this is horse hockey or not. So this came about because of a video discussion that was leaked between the leaders of Russia and China, and they were talking about immortality. These days, at 70 years old, you are still a child. China's Xi Jinping said, who's 72, to which Putin said, with developments in biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted and people can live younger and younger and even achieve immortality. Putin is also 72, so these guys are the exact same age. You'll notice a theme here. The leaders of all the biggest countries in the world are generally in their 70s. Of course, there's exceptions. So MIT Tech Review staff was attending this conference on longevity. In fact, the conference was wholly about longevity science. What was the conclusion? Repeated rounds of organ transplant surgery aren't likely to help anyone radically extend their lifespan anytime soon. Yeah, so this was hyperbole, as they say. One day, people are clearly going to live much longer and in much better health for a much longer time, but that is not yet. First, aging is so complicated that researchers can't agree on what causes it, why it occurs, or even how to define it, let alone treat it. So we are very, very early in longevity science. Having said that, there may be some merit to the idea of repairing worn-out body parts with biological or synthetic replacements. And my viewers know that in parallel with this, they're working on nanobots that will repair your cells at the cellular level, and then theoretically you could live almost forever. Replacement therapies, including bioengineered organs, are being developed by multiple research teams. And that's where AI comes in, because all these teams are using AI in their research. AI is revolutionizing medical research. Some of these have already been tested in people. No one fully understands why our organs start to fail with age. On the face of it, replacing organs seems like a good idea, and replacing old organs with younger ones might have more broadly beneficial effects. For example, and this is weird science, when a young mouse is stitched to an older one, the older mouse benefits from the arrangement, and its health seems to improve. Weird. The problem is, even though there is an effect that's been shown, they don't know why it happens. We don't know what it is about young body tissues that makes them health promoting. We don't know how long these effects might last in a person. We don't know how different organ transplants will compare either. What they mean is transplanting a liver versus a heart versus lungs, etc. There's already a huge shortage of donor organs. Thousands of people already die on waiting lists for a transplant. Also, transplantation is major surgery. and typically a lifetime of prescription drug use to damp down the immune system follows. So the idea of repeated organ transplants shouldn't be taken lightly, nor is it a particularly appealing one. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, says Jesse Poganik, who's a surgeon at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. The surgeries are good, but they're not simple and they come with real risk. So when it comes to replacing worn-out organs, scientists are looking for both biological and synthetic alternatives. We've been replacing some body parts for centuries, and they talk about wooden toes and stuff like that, wooden legs. Scientists are exploring other ways to make tissues and organs too. In 1999, researchers used volunteers' own cells to seed bladder-shaped collagen scaffolds. The resulting bioengineered bladders went on to be transplanted into 7 different people in an initial trial, but it wasn't repeated. They don't say why. Now scientists are working on more complicated organs. Gene Hebert, a program manager at the U.S. government's Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, has been exploring ways to gradually replace the cells in a person's brain. The idea is that eventually the recipient will end up with a young brain. There's unbelievable stuff being looked into now. In addition, many potential longevity drugs are in testing now. And first they test them on these worms that only live like 15 to 40 days because they can see the effect very quickly. And then they move to mice and then later move to humans. So this is a long process. About 40% of the drugs that extend lifespan in the worms also help mice live longer. To me, that's not an amazing hit rate. And we don't know how many of those drugs will work in people. Probably less than 40% of the 40%. So what he's saying is this is really still a long shot. There's a lot aging researchers simply don't understand yet. It will take years, if not decades, to get the full picture of aging at the molecular level. Probably decades. Replacement is a really exciting avenue because you don't have to understand the biology of aging as much, says Sierra Lohr, who's at the University of Denmark and a research institute in California also. I very quickly realized when I started that we were decades away from understanding the molecular processes that underlie aging. She says, why don't we just take what we already know, replacement, and try to understand and apply it better? So perhaps Putin's straightforward approach to delaying aging may hold some merit. So there's a lot to unpack here, but we'll do it quickly. First, AI is driving most of this medical research, just like all medical research generally now. That's number one. Number two, we're at the very beginning of aging research. Very beginning. It does make sense that if they can improve the transplant process, that will help not only people who will die without that transplant, but may eventually extend life. But the problem right now is the shortage of donors that results in thousands of people dying every single year because they can't get a transplant. This is still really common, so they're going to have to come up, as the article briefly mentions, with some synthetic way to create organs for replacement. That's the only way in the natural, since people are living longer and healthier and dying much less frequently by accident than they used to 50 years or especially 100 years ago. There's just fewer and fewer donors every year. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on, but like I said to my kids, there's no doubt that people are going to start to live quite a bit longer than they do today. Today in the U.S., the average age for men to live to is 82, and the average age for women is 85. Look for that to be, as I said, in the 120 range 40 years from now. That should give you pause for reflection. What a lifetime looks like with that many years in front of you. My belief is it would be quite different than it is today. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.